Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
So you know you're early, right?
Yeah, I'm early.
Okay, great, because our class starts at 9:30.
Um, we don't have a midterm, right? For this class.
No, we did a little bit.
Yeah, I did that quiz. Yes.
Do you have any other questions about anything?
Hmm.
You can keep your mic on, because it's just the two of us.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be making mandalas. Do you have your drawing stuff ready?
Yeah, I have the stuff ready. Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm just going to get all my set up so you'll be able to see. I'll do a little test here and just make sure that camera. Okay, great.
Was last week's meeting not recorded last week?
Let's see if it was. Yeah, was it not on the were you unable to find it?
Yeah, I was not able to find the thing in the
Okay,
D2L.
see.
I only saw the link for the poses and stuff for yoga.
For the poses, but we're not. This isn't a yoga class.
I know. I'm at the only that link was there for. It didn't have the Zoom link
Yeah,
recording.
You're absolutely right. Okay, I'm going to now take care of that. Okay.
I thought there was no recording last week or something because I couldn't find a recording.
No, there was, and I'm sorry because it didn't turn me. Also, I am getting a little bit flooded with things, so let me go ahead and put this here. Go. Okay, now I'm done.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't see it, so yeah.
Well, it wasn't there until just now.
Yeah.
For somehow I neglected to. Yeah, for some reason I neglected to post it. It just simply was a slight memory. And usually someone will email me looking for it, but nobody did.
Yeah, because everybody was doing the response. I thought there was like they were just looking at the link you uploaded or something. Because there was no recording at all on there.
No, you're right. There was no recording. There was a lot of let me go ahead and share the screen. Right. So yeah, this is what we did last week. Talk about the subtle body.
Yeah.
Okay, and then through the core muscles, and apparently it's too bad that you get to see the recording, but go back and watch it.
Okay.
It's a pretty interesting class. But all of this, there are these links that I wanted you to check out, and the koshas, the Word document explaining it, the kosha math, etc. Did you read these, Mandy?
Yeah, I looked at them. Yes.
Okay, great. And did you understand it? Do you have any questions about it?
I don't have any questions.
Okay.
I'm good.
All right, great. Yeah. So my apologies. That something that happens.
Yeah.
And like I said, usually, within a day, someone is emailing me saying, "Oh, there's no recording."
Yeah, like on the day on Tuesday after your so-called meeting, I didn't even see nothing at all. I just saw you had the link there and the other documents and that content for week 7.
Yes. Is there a reason that you didn't email me and ask about it?
Because I saw some other classmates already posting like for the week 7. I thought they somehow saw it or something. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, the best thing, particularly with online classes, and I also he might ask you to turn your camera on, Mandy, if you have a camera.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just the two of us. I understand why people like camera on, but it's easier for me to have a conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, if that happens again, or send me.
Okay. Yeah.
Like I said, that was
Okay.
recordings there, but well,
Not a lot.
for those things. Well, we're
Oh, and maybe that's why, right?
yeah.
Mhm.
I had for another course that I had well, yes, I did it for the yoga class. I don't know why I did it oh well. It just basically it slipped my mind. Because what happens is I have this class and then I have about a half hour and then I yoga class for them as well.
Mm.
And yoga class, 3 hour class. So generally what I do, the students take a little while to process.
Yeah.
And so I can't do it right away. But then when I finish the yoga class, then the meditation class is done, and then after a while the yoga class is done. So but I, my apologies. If it should happen again, send me an email right away.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yes.
And you go back and watch that, and I'll put it in announcement, for our.
Yeah.
So how's your meditation practice going?
It's been really helping me, like mentally and with my sleep and overall. Yeah.
It's really helpful. It's really important to try to find quiet. How many courses are you taking?
For this semester, for this semester, only two.
Oh, that's great. What else are you taking?
A TESOL, 341, I think, 440. Is a teaching English as a second language.
Oh, great. That's wonderful. And so you must be bilingual.
Yeah. I speak English and Cantonese.
Oh, wow. That's a very difficult language. And we're thinking, and I imagine that it would be very difficult for those learning style with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I worked at a Cantonese restaurant when I was in college, and I worked there for several years. It was a very small town. It was a family-owned restaurant, and so the close to everything was great. Never really stuff. I'm not that. Some people have talent with languages, and it's never been really one of them.
Mm.
So some of the things that we're going to eat today, go ahead. So hopefully you have some kind of drawing paper,
Yes.
and then also have
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I just have, all fashion, work. But if you don't have like an index card or cardboard, but I have several different sizes, of hangers and caps and things, and that can be really helpful, just to kind of design our gondola, and pencils, pens, and then if you have markers, or colored pencils, you want to add colored pencils, if you're a painter, and we are going to spend some time of the class time working on this. So probably get materials time for us to go. Have you made mongols before?
Um, I think I colored them in like color those before in like in a coloring book before because like I do all those
Yeah.
little shapes.
Yeah, and you enjoy it.
It was very calming.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. It's a form of active meditation.
Mm.
No, it's every different type of meditation that we do um, is suitable for a different mood that you have or a different day that you have. So you have a lot of kind of tools in your toolbox to keep your practice going, right? What's been your favorite meditation so far?
Um, I think it would be like the first week how we just started it as a whole because like that was really my first time meditating. It really did help me as a whole and it like made me more interested in meditation.
Now, are you have a practice pretty much every day?
Um, I try to like meditate and then like after I meditate I will try to like get myself because I'll become a little bit sleepy. So I'll try to run on the treadmill and then like after that I'll be awake and ready for the day after that. Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I like to meditate in the morning myself. I mean, it's nice to meditate in the morning, but I think that it's like 5 days after um, my
Yeah.
which is good. If you have that, so it's okay. But yeah, it's nice to um, spend.
Yeah, it's very gloomy today. Yeah, it kept on like raining, like it was big and then like a little and stuff, and then it stopped for a little. Yes, I live in Chicago. Yeah, yesterday I was running in and out of the rain because I was doing some chores yesterday. So I was outside in the rain yesterday too. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, it is. Yeah. Yeah, I was born and raised in Chicago. When I was a baby, I lived in the north side, and then when I was like a few months old, and then later on, I moved down to the south, near Chinatown. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm very familiar with that part too. Yeah, like that. That's like a north side kind of Chinatown, and then Chinatown is like the really Chinatown of Chicago. But like for the Chinese New Year parade, they do it like a few days after the first like the official New Year's. They do it like toward the like mid of it, like the few days after it starts. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. I never participate, but like the only fun part about like the Chinese New Year is really the part where we get the money from our parents. Yeah, and the food on the first few days, and like the toward the end of the holiday, we get a big feast. It's like almost like seven, like almost like 14 days or something like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you have any grandchildren? Yeah, yeah, yeah. There are, yes.
some of those squares will fill up. Actually, you predicted the meeting last week, you know?
Yes, I'm present.
Yeah, you're present, right, because Mandy just told me that I somehow left it on our, spell page. And so, I have three names, but I didn't have information, so I did post, I just looked at there now, and it also makes me, understand when I read the posts that people had done for week 7, someone said that they went through the 7-step meditation and reading, you know, and then I responded, oh, this is all on Zoom, you know, obviously they couldn't, because it wasn't posted, so my apologies for that, and I reminded Mandy, if ever that happens again, just send me an email, because it takes about an hour after the class for the process, and then I try to post it, you know, pretty early after, but yeah. But, we're done. Morning, Tim, how are you? Can you hear me, Tim? Uh-oh, hello? Looks like you're connected to the audio. Talking to me, so you're not. Let's see. Hope you can hear me anyway. Hello. Hi, Betsy, how are you?
Good. I'm just saying, I'm gonna have to 10 o'clock, but I wanted to live for the class.
Okay, that's fine, that's fine. We're gonna talk about, mandalas, we're gonna make them. So I'm gonna show you, a little slideshow, you know, that I still have yet to post on Monday. And then we're gonna spend some time drawing. So I promised to, post meeting for today, on, well, apparently I forgot to do that, Mandy was here, and so she found it, so I realized that somehow I had left to post it. And, I just did that now, so we want to review anything that we did last week.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Oh, I hear you now, Tim, you got it,
I
working?
just-
Okay, great, great, yeah. But, please, if you ever look at at one of the modules, and there is, the meetings happen, and it's day after, you have to give me a couple of hours, you know, to, usually I have it up there by Tuesday evening. If it's not there, just shoot me an email, you know, because it just somehow slipped my mind, and I did all the other classes. And I'm blaming it on Mercury and Mercury. I don't know if, those of you who follow astrology, which is related to astronomy, you know, the actual science of the planetary movement, the planet Mercury, a couple times every year slows down so much, going backwards, and then, kind of energetically it's said that because Mercury, is the symbol of communication, we are to give any credence to the, myths or the stories of Mercury, and communication can get a little bit tangled. And I found last week that in addition to forgetting to post this Zoom meeting, I also had several emails that didn't make it, and had a flat tire, you know, there were just, so I couldn't make my meeting. There were a lot of things. So it's just one of those times when you have to say, okay, I'll just do better next time. So if I don't post, please let me know, and then I will make sure to get it up there. So, so great. So today we're going to talk about mandalas and a little bit of talk about labyrinths, but I'm going to spend more time talking about mandalas because we're going to make some mandalas. Now, some of you have already constructed a mandala because I did have that discussion forum open, but we're going to spend some time working on one today if you would like. So I did post that we did need a few supplies. Oops, here's Sundar. Great. Okay, hold until he gets here before I shift cameras. Oh, and I should start to record it. That. Hi, Sundar. How are you?
Hi, morning. Yeah, I'm good.
Good. Okay, great. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and record this. And I want to again apologize on the recording for not having posted the recording of last week's Zoom meeting. I was just informed of that just now. Somehow I thought I had done it. I'm very, very sorry. It was just a sleight of memory. And it is posted. So many of you have already posted for week 7, and you did read the articles and go through the scripted meditations, which is wonderful. Thank you so much for doing that. In the Zoom meeting, I did lead the meditations, so if you want to revisit that, feel free to do that. And if at any time you see that there is not a link to the Zoom meeting, please let me know, and I'm happy to then post it. I try to get them done by Tuesday evening when I'm done with all my teaching, but I forgot. Okay, so for today, as I said, we're going to be working with mandalas. So I want to show you there's a few materials, that you will need. I have a sketchbook. You can use copy paper, if you like. I'm going to go ahead and pin this one right now, so it's a little bit bigger for people. Pencils, okay, or a pen, whatever you like to draw with. And then I like to, I'm a big mandala maker, I find it a very calming activity. And sometimes if I just don't have the patience to sit and meditate, but I really need something to calm me, I'll just simply make a mandala. And you don't have to use necessarily sketchbook paper. You can use, well, you can use a canvas, you can paint it if you want, or you can use copy paper. And then just to make it easier, I like to use, lots of, takeout or, pesto salsa, spool of thread, little bottles of caps from water, what is this, micro-coated cheese top, another, I think this is a kombucha thing, but having several different templates in various sizes can really help, because one of the things that discourages people when they start to try to do anything artistic, is that they don't feel like they have control. Because if you have studied art, if you like to draw, then it's no problem. But most people, I think I could say most, at a certain age, they just cease drawing. Oh, another thing too, if you want to add some color, you can use just Crayola markers are great, or colored pencils. I have these colored pencils that that actually you can put water on them, and so then they look a little bit more like paint. If you like this, you can also get mandala coloring books. So these are pre-made mandalas. That's just some ideas. There's namaskara. Here's just different yoga poses. But a mandala essentially is a design that is used in very many cultures to allow someone to meditate. Okay. We've talked about the various devices used to meditate in the past, but a mandala, if you're creating one, is really very active. So how many of you have made mandalas before? Just give me a thumbs up if you want. So nobody in this group has made a mandala. Okay. Tim, yes, you have. Okay, great. All right. So yeah, mandalas can be a really fun thing to do by yourself or with a group. Okay. Let me go ahead and share the screen, and I don't want to try not to talk too much so we have a lot of time to work. Okay, oops, that was week 7. Yes, as you can see, I just put the recording there, so if you need to. Okay. All right, so mandalas are something that you can do in a very small space if you want to make your own. I also have a little slideshow of the importance of mandalas in different cultures, which I'll show you in a minute. But the circular design symbolized the idea that life is never ending, and also that everything is connected, because a circle does not have an end. It just keeps on going, unlike a square or a triangle that do have those angles. And then there are opportunities for pausing. It certainly does not mean that you cannot pause as you're walking around in a circle or drawing a circle, but the design itself is constructed for continuity. It also represents a spiritual journey within the individual viewer. So we looked at the koshas last week, and the koshas and the subtle body are constructed in a mandala form with that concentricity and that idea of moving outward and moving inward once again. They have many uses apart from meditation, as the designs are meant to remove irritating thoughts, and it really can allow the creative mind to run free. A labyrinth is an ancient symbol that relates to wholeness. It combines the imagery of the circle and the spiral into a meandering but purposeful path. So I'm going to go to here. Oops, I'm going to go there. Hopefully, we'll see. Okay, so there are labyrinths in Chicago. A labyrinth is a design on the floor or in a park. There are outdoor and indoor labyrinths. Here's one at Grace Cathedral. There, yeah, here we go. Okay, so this is viewed from above, and these are people. A labyrinth works the best if it is a pretty large design, and there is an entry point that someone enters the labyrinth, and as you can see, this person is going this direction, and then it's going to have to curve around, and walk around an outer circle. So sometimes when you are walking a labyrinth, like here, for instance, if I were going to be walking along this arrow and then moving in and coming here, I'm almost to the center, but then the labyrinth takes you away from the center and all the way around again through the next curve. Okay. So we want to try to, when we are walking a labyrinth, just focus on the walking. So it is definitely a walking meditation. At Grace Cathedral, there are monthly candlelight labyrinth walks, that you are welcome to join. So they say that there's 3 stages of a walk: the releasing, letting go of the details. Like any meditation, just immerse yourself in the activity. And then when you reach the center, you can stay there as long as you like. You can do a little yoga if you want. You can sit and meditate if there's no one there. Usually, even if there's other people walking the labyrinth, if there's space, they are not going to mind that you sit there. Okay, and then you move. You go out of it, following the same path out of the center as you came in. You enter the 3rd stage, which is joining to your higher power. So if you're interested, you can, kind of connect by signing up for this email. I also have, let's see, a link to the Labyrinth Society, okay, which is an international organization. You can download a labyrinth and let your fingers do the walking. Two, labyrinths, even just tracing a labyrinth with your hand or even with your mouse, can be really very calming, because again of the circular activity and then moving back and going back in again. A labyrinth market links to places you can rent or purchase labyrinths. You can also locate a labyrinth in Chicago. Here we go. The labyrinth locator. Okay. So there's several of them. These are in Chicago. There's one on South Prairie Street. Okay, there's some photographs of that. There's one at St. Scholastica that I do think, oh, here's one downtown at the Fourth Presbyterian Church. St. James Cathedral, also downtown. This is an outdoor labyrinth. It's a little bit smaller. Fourth Pres again. St. Paul's in Lincoln Park has a labyrinth. Let's see, Garfield Park Conservatory has a lovely outdoor labyrinth, as you can see from this photograph. Yeah, St. Scholastica Monastery. Now, St. Scholastica used to be a Catholic girls' school. Now it is a high school. It has a different name. They sold it, but the monastery is still there, and the labyrinth, as far as I know, is there. The Kimball Avenue Church. Okay. St. James. Oh, that I already mentioned that one. Prince of Peace. And there are others in various suburbs as well. So because every time I teach this, then a student will do a little search and discover a labyrinth out in Schaumburg or something like that. So yeah, you can type in the locating of the labyrinth, your zip code, and they can let you know where you can walk one. Okay. Let me stop this share for a second. So how many of you have walked a labyrinth or have ever heard of a labyrinth? And again, you can just give me a thumbs up if you don't want to turn in your mic. Okay, Tim, yes.
I have not. I've only heard of the movie and I've never seen it.
Oh, the movie, the David. It's a great movie. I'm a big David Bowie fan, but that's a very scary labyrinth, And as a matter of fact, that's more of a maze. There is a slight difference between a labyrinth and a maze. If you go to various cities in Europe, particularly in London, many of the formal gardens do have mazes. Now, the difference between a labyrinth and a maze is that when you are walking in a labyrinth, you may turn around and then go back, and you can kind of feel that sense of being a little bit lost because you keep changing direction. But with a maze, there are actually dead ends. And that's what happens in the labyrinth, and it's very scary, because the children feel like they're going to be attacked. So that's not very relaxing, is it? Okay, so I wanted to show you just a few slides. This is actually a pretty extensive PowerPoint slideshow. I'm not going to go through everything, but I did a workshop at the C.G. Jung Center last April on creating a mandala. But it was a 2-hour class, and we don't have that kind of time. So I'm going to show you just a few of these. Oops. Okay, what is a mandala? Here we go. Okay, so this is on mandalas, not on labyrinths. We're shifting again. Okay, so Carl Jung, the psychologist who was a student of Sigmund Freud and has been very important in 20th century thinking about spirituality and psychology, did a lot of investigation into mandalas. He was a student of all cultures and particularly spent a lot of time immersed in Hinduism and Buddhism, both of which use the mandala as a meditative device, and as a path towards personal spiritual discovery. And Carl Jung, at one time, made a mandala almost every day. And if you are a student of Carl Jung, you'll find them in a book of his called The Red Book. Okay. So it's all about trying to get to wholeness, right? Mandala is Sanskrit for circle. And it is a representation of the higher thought and deeper meaning that we all have access to. The details of your thinking, of course, are going to vary because we all are individuals. But in all cultures, mandalas serve to center and to encourage introspection. Whether you are paying attention to the outside, moving around, going around, or if your focus goes right to the center, then it's going to meander out and you're going to get preoccupied by the loop. So we're constantly moving into the center and out to the perimeter, which is what happens in life, period. So mandalas are mentioned in the Rig Veda in India as early as 1500 BCE. And I like to show this because we often think of books as being a product of the Middle Ages, but of course, in China and ancient China, they had scrolls, but in India, they actually had books that were written in this calligraphic language, Sanskrit, on pieces of wood, and some of them are still in existence. So a circle decorated with imagery to direct the mind inwards, reflecting on these things, the meaning and the purpose of life, the nature of the universe, and the substance and reality of God, the true nature of the self, the underlying form of reality, and various cosmological truths. There's 10 books in the Rig Veda. And each one of these is actually considered a mandala, although it's a book, because it leads one from the outer rim of understanding towards the center of meaning. The Charkava mandala comes towards the end of the Vedic period in India, when there is a little splintering off of the ideas of ancient Hinduism. And one of the characteristics of the Charkava mandala is that it has these 4 sections, 4 elements enclosed in a circle within a broader circle. So this particular mandala does encourage belief in materialistic truth of the human condition, preventing the mind from wandering. Now, when I say materialism, I don't mean being materialist, meaning to have a new car every year, that kind of thing, but the idea of material reality, something that you can hold, something that you can touch. So it's a little bit less esoteric. Like, for instance, holding your hands in mudra while you are meditating, or using mala beads, or listening to a sound. Those are material realities. So what this does is to make these ideas of introspection and moving towards enlightenment available to more people who really do need to have some material reality. Now, Jainism is also a branch of religion that stems from, Hinduism, and the Jains are really connected with individuals, but it's interesting because most of the maps of the individual jinas are designed to be in a mandala form, in a circle form. So once again, we have that. In Buddhism, which is a non-theistic religion, there's no belief in a creator God in Buddhism. The Buddha was a mortal being who achieved enlightenment, and then as the religion of Buddhism grew, there was a capacity for more and more people to reach that sense of Buddha. Siddhartha was the first Buddha, 563 BCE. He was a Hindu prince, so it comes directly from Hinduism, who abandoned his position and wealth to become a spiritual ascetic and finally an enlightened being. So in his ascetic practices, he left the palace and he lived in the forest, He sat, as the legend has it, he sat under the banyan tree, and just looked at the river and meditated and meditated, meditated. And then when he reached enlightenment, he came back into society to teach others the means by which they could escape samsara, the cycle of suffering, rebirth, and death. So the mandala in Buddhism represents an imaginary palace that is contemplated during meditation. Each object in the palace has significance, representing an aspect of wisdom or reminding the meditator of a guided principle. So I want to show you this mandala in the San Francisco Art Museum that we can even walk into. Oops, oh.
Good morning, I'm Jeff Durham, the Assistant Curator of Himalayan Art here at the Asian Art Museum of San Francisco. And this morning, I'd like to invite you to do something really fairly special. I'd like to invite you to enter the mandala. That is, enter a room that we have configured here at the Asian Art Museum as a mandala. Now, of course, the first question that's going to come to mind is precisely what is a mandala? Well, this can be approached in several different ways. If you approach it through the language, a mandala, manda is a palace, and a la is a hidden presence, usually a divinity at the center of that palace. So it's a palace that contains a divinity. In another sense, in a geometric sense, a mandala is a set of nested squares and circles, a journey through which takes you to that divinity at the center of the mandala. But most importantly, the mandala is a meditative environment that is reconstructed, not usually architecturally as we've done here, but rather in the mind's eye. The measure for success in mandala meditation is if you can keep a vision of that mandala, set of nested squares and circles, in mind for 2 straight hours without wavering. The size of the tip of your nose, you've achieved success and entered the mandala. We think that we may be able to use our gallery space to give you, the visitor, an experience of being inside the nested geometries of the mandala without 20 years of meditation practice.
Oh, I thought there was a little bit more on that. Sorry. Okay. So, yeah, if you do get to San Francisco, I do recommend that you go visit that. I had the opportunity to do that back here on. Okay, so also many Buddhist monks will make a sand mandala as an offering. And there have been several occasions where monks from monasteries in Tibet have come to Chicago, to construct a mandala. And they spend approximately, depends, sometimes up to 2 weeks, sometimes a few days, constructing these mandalas out of colored sand. Then after the mandala is completed, they will consecrate the mandala during a ceremony of chanting, and then destroy the mandala, sweep it into just piles of sand, and then take that sand and put it in the nearest body of water so that the energy from the mandala can go into the universe. So this was a mandala that a part of a mandala that I took a photograph of that was created at the Lake Street Church in Evanston in 2018. And then after the mandala was completed, there was some chanting and beautiful ceremony, and we all walked down to the lake, and more wonderful playing of these huge Tibetan horns, more chanting, and then these very intricate designs, which are made of sand. These are not drawn, and they're not even drawing on a pattern. They, of course, do have these classical symbols that are used, the symbol of Om, the spinning wheel, etc., etc. But they are, the design of the mandala is mapped out, so you have all these sections, but what happens inside of them is pretty much extemporaneous. Mandalas are also used in other cultures. The Navajo people of the United States, use mandalas as sand mandalas once again, as a healing device. So if someone is very ill, a shaman will come and lay out a piece of fabric and then use the sand to create a mandala that is specific to that individual. We find them in Mesopotamia as well.
Do you have any pictures of the sand mandala?
This is the sand mandala. Are you not seeing this?
No, I don't see it. Do you guys see any slides?
Oh,
No.
you're not seeing it. Okay, here, let me. Oh. I'm so sorry. Yes, let me go back to sharing the screen. Let's see. Mercury. Okay, so now let me come to this one and go. Now, can you see my slides?
Yes, I can see it now. Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Thank you so much for saying so. Yes, you guys, I don't want to get too woo, but I do have a lot of Mercury in my chart, and this couple of weeks has been like really crazy. These kinds of things have been happening a lot. Okay, so let me back up here. Okay, did you see this? The art museum?
Nope.
Did you see the video?
Is that when the guy was talking?
Yes.
Yeah, we didn't see it. I can just hear him talking.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, so I'm gonna just start over again. Okay. Have you seen any of these?
Nope.
No. Oh, you guys. Oh my goodness. Okay, so there's the Rig Veda. Here's the Charkava mandala. The 4 elements. Okay. All right, are the jinas, the Jains, in the mandala. And here is my first slide of a Buddhist mandala. Okay, imaginary palace. All right, so it's just 2 minutes. I'm gonna show this to you again.
Good morning, I'm Jeff Durham, the Assistant Curator of Himalayan Art here at the Asian Art Museum of San Francisco. And this morning, I'd like to invite you to do something really fairly special. I'd like to invite you to enter the mandala. That is, to enter a room that we have configured here at the Asian Art Museum as a mandala. Now, of course, the first question that's going to come to mind is precisely what is a mandala? Well, this can be approached in several different ways. If you approach it through the language, a manda is a palace, and a la is a hidden presence, usually a divinity at the center of that palace. So it's a palace that contains a divinity. In another sense, in a geometric sense, a
Definitely
mandala is
worth
a set of
seeing these
nested
images here.
squares and circles, a journey through which takes to that divinity at the center of the mandala. But most importantly, the mandala is a meditative environment that is reconstructed, not usually architecturally as we've done here, but rather in the mind's eye. The measure for success in mandala meditation is if you can keep a vision of that mandala, set of nested squares and circles, in mind for 2 straight hours without wavering. The size of the tip of your nose, you've achieved success and entered the mandala. We think that we may be able to use our gallery space to give you, the visitor, an experience of being inside the nested geometries of the mandala without 20 years of meditation practice.
So I did have a chance, as I said, to walk that mandala, but I did not. I didn't get to that particular state that he's describing, but it's a really wonderful experience. So I do highly recommend it. Okay, so here is the sand mandala, and here are the various. This is an instrument, an offering, but then they have the colored sand in these containers. And this is the one from the mandala at Lake Street Church, the one that I was talking about. Okay. So yeah, it's very important to see it because it's so incredibly intricate, and the idea of constructing it of sand makes it even further amazing. Here is the Navajo healing sand mandala. Okay, there are different images, but it is the same sensibility, of a circle. And in this case, this is one figure, that is encircling these other symbols, the lizard, the turtles, the lightning bolt, the corn, etc. And this one is a detail of victory seal of Naram-Sin, the king of Mesopotamia. So we find this symbol frequently. Now, in Christianity, we also have mandalas. The rose windows of Chartres and Notre Dame cathedrals, and of many of the cathedrals in Chicago are essentially mandalas. And anyone who has spent time in a cathedral like this, whether you are at a service or whether you are just visiting the cathedral out of architectural interest, you'll find yourself drawn into looking at the white. Now, in the cathedral at Chartres and in many of the cathedrals in Chicago and other places in the world, the colored glass will tell stories. There also are mandalas in the ceilings of Islamic domes, representing the universe and Allah's power as creator of all. Now, in Islamic art, there are no depictions of humans. It is, kind of a taboo image in Islam to depict the human face or the human body. So everything is abstract or calligraphic. Okay. And in the early 20th century, some of the very early modernist artists were also found themselves very interested in these Eastern ideas. It was, of course, the Silk Road travel and its exchange of culture and goods had been in full swing, by the early teens and the 20th, and so many of the early thinkers and artists of the United States, were interested in this concept of concentric circles, and of visual things being a way to reach a sense of enlightenment. Okay, and in fact, Annie Besant and Charles Ledbetter wrote a book called Thought Forms that talks about how your thoughts are I'm just going to read this. A radiating vibration conveys the character of the thought, but not its subject. A man, for instance, or a woman, thinking keenly upon some high subject pours out vibrations, which tend to stir up thought at a similar level in others, but they in no way suggest to those others the special subject of his thought. And this is kind of an exciting thing for particularly for artists or for very introverted people who do like to create designs and art. When you are dealing with an abstraction of shapes, you can pour all of your personal emotive intentions into those shapes. But because they are what I call kind of an open metaphor, the people who are looking at them do not necessarily need to know your innermost thoughts and fears, but they can feel the intensity. So I'm actually going to skip this in the virtue of time. No, I'm not. I'm going to show you this. A Chladni plate, is something that that Charles Ledbetter and Annie Besant talk about in Thought Forms, which is kind of an interesting. Can I make this bigger? There we go. So you can create a mandala just by using vibratory action. Let's see if I can make this bigger. No, I can't. Okay. So let's see. Yes, I can. Good. All right. So secrets in the lab. So this is more about physics, but metaphysics also is, I'm going to turn this down a little bit because it's a little bit grating. So having now a metal plate and spilling sand on it, having that plate fastened to a base and using a bow to vibrate it, the particles will end up creating a mandala-like structure. We'll see, do a couple of other ones. So I am presenting this, not as evidence of, a higher power governing, what is happening, but as far as the interconnectedness, of all of the thoughts and the ideas. So depending on how they bow it, you can get a different kind of a design. Go ahead and stop that there. I'll post this so you can watch that a little bit more. And there, I also have a video of a contemporary music group, who has used a Chladni plate in their videos. So we do find mandalas in nature. That's one of the reasons we really like to look at throwing pebbles in the water, looking at the center of flowers. Andy Goldsworthy is a contemporary artist in Scotland who his art object is very site specific. And he will go into these natural environments and, for instance, pick up all these leaves that then he arranges in this kind of a radiating form, or the stones. He doesn't paint the stones or paint the leaves, he simply arranges them. Okay, and I do want to show you a couple of contemporary artists who are making mandalas as their artwork. Okay. These are collage mandalas, that relate to the history of wheat cultivation. Okay. And here's some of the images that she has used. These are digital constructions. Now there are also filters that you can get that can make a kaleidoscope or make a mandala, but these are very intentionally done. And then there was one more that I wanted to show you. Yeah, the shopping carts that are a direct comment on consumerism. Let's see. So, for instance, she shoots them from above, and goes into big box stores like Home Depot, Target, etc., and arranges the shopping carts in a mandala shape. Okay, great. So that is, I think, all I want to show you for that. I'm going to go ahead and stop the share. Okay, any questions, any comments? Okay, y'all want to make a mandala?
Yes.
Thanks. Okay. All right. So before we sit down and draw, I have been noticing how the commentary in the posts always mentions, there's always at least one person, every week who is commenting on the importance of the stretching before they begin their meditation. This makes perfect sense because if your body is in an uncomfortable state to begin with, then you're going to become more uncomfortable when you ask yourself to sit still. So let's go ahead and stretch a little bit, and then we'll sit down and we'll take the next 40 or so minutes of our class to draw a little bit. Okay. So here, and go ahead and stand up. So wherever you are, go ahead and stand up. And let's just go ahead and shift your weight from side to side. Swing your arms a little bit. And maybe work your feet, like kind of pedaling your feet. Keep your hands over your heart and go ahead and count your spine. Twist a little bit side to side. Open that area between the shoulder blades. Reaching the arm up, back, side to side, a little bit. Okay, and then maybe intertwining the hands, reaching back, pulling your elbows in, looking up, side, reaching up, leaning slightly back, and diving down on it. Bend your knees, let your head hang down. Again, just a little bit of little setup here. Go ahead and find your place. And before we start our mandala, we'll just do a little bit of breathing. Okay. So just sit on your meditation cushion or in your chair. Get yourself very tall, shoulder rolls. Then lifting your heart, drop your chin to the chest, into the back of the neck, the upper shoulders, the center of the back. Face the sky. And then gently drop your chin to the chest. Tick-tock your head from side to side. And then you slow head circles, leading with the chin. Gently stretch out the neck, up in one direction. And then a couple in the other direction. And then coming back to center, just allow your hands to rest. Slide your shoulder blades down the back. Yawn. Take your face. And close your eyes. And just take a moment to notice your breathing. Noticing the inhale. And noticing the exhale. When you inhale, fill your lungs to their full capacity. When you exhale, empty the lungs. The yoga three-part breath, Durga Pranayama. Imagining that there's a balloon in your pelvic bowl. When you inhale, bring your breath all the way down into the pelvis. Fill the side, that's the back of the pelvis. Exhale, empty the pelvic bowl. Another balloon is in your rib cage. Inhaling, fill the pelvis. Now fill the rib cage. Spread the ribs in 4 directions. Exhale, empty the pelvis and empty the rib cage. The third balloon is in your upper chest and shoulder girdle. Inhale, fill the pelvis, the rib cage, the upper chest and shoulders. Exhale, empty the pelvis, the rib cage, the upper chest and shoulders. Relax your hands and continue this 3-part breathing for just a few. At the end of the next exhale, let your breath take care of it. Then gently drop your chin to the chest. Slowly relax over. So we're going to warm up our hands a little bit. So remember, we did this, I think, one of the first classes. sa, na, ta, ma, sa, na, ta, ma. I actually use this as a warm-up frequently before I draw, and I try to increasingly come to the very, very tips. Shaking your hands out. The thing that can really be helpful is to have the backs of the hands together. Just gonna tick tock. Just open up those wrists. And maybe you pull fingers towards you, up to the sky, try to keep the wrists together. Now connect the little fingers, come to the palms together. Now come to the index fingers and draw. This direction, little fingers, palms, index fingers back to the hands drop. Now let's go the other direction. Fingers away from you. Now index fingers, palms, and little fingers back to the hands away from you. Index fingers, palms, and little fingers back to the hands. And then just shake it out. Okay, so hopefully you all have some materials to work with. I have a sketchbook. It's okay if you don't have a sketchbook per se. If you have just something else to draw on, that would be fine. Copy paper works really well. And we're going to take one sheet to kind of do a little warm up before we actually begin our mandala. So take your pencil or your drawing material. You know, I do recommend starting with a pencil. Just use a number 2, type out the Roma pencil, you know, or if you have an art pencil, whatever you have handy. And notice I'm holding it in the center, okay, rather than holding it right here, because I'm not going to be making letters. I don't need to have a lot of control. I want to just explore what this pencil can do. So first I'm going to just start making circles in the air, one direction, and then the other direction. Okay. And then I'm going to take those circles onto my page. Now notice I'm making my circles with my wrist. Okay. And maybe go ahead and crossing that circle. I'm going to actually do it with a pen so you all can see it a little bit easier. Okay, a little bit better. So let your wrist guide you. Let your elbow help you to move. Let's just see what kind of marks, you know, you can make. You can make some angled marks. You can make some straight marks. You can make some meandering marks, and you can make some spiral. Just do one continuous line at first. So this is just a little bit of a warm-up. Just allowing you to make some spaces. And then maybe come into one of those spaces. And remember those penmanship exercises that we had to do, just those spirals. See if you can fill a space just with some spirals. And maybe you'll fill another space with some zigzags. And maybe you'll have another space that you'll just fill with little circles. So now thinking about what these mean or what they are, maybe there'll be little clouds instead of little circles. Maybe in there you'll have some triangular shapes. Getting something centric. Maybe you'll just have one of the spaces that you want to fill with just some straight lines. Notice I'm still holding it in the center because as soon as I come back up here, then it's really just going to make these really tight little marks. Okay? So try to be a little bit loose at first. Not really worrying, you know, what it looks like, what anybody thinks of it. Just getting yourself used to making some marks. And then maybe you might try to make some actual shapes in some of those spaces. So now we'll, you can even just use the back of this. I'll just use the back of this for my little warm up. Now, what I'm going to suggest doing is taking one of your templates. We're still not making our mandala yet, still some warm up. making a couple of curves, my larger one. And then I'm going to take a smaller one and inside of it, make another curve. Because these are going to be the containers for your mandala, these little curves. All right. And now, without necessarily thinking, of a specific image, maybe you want to do just some loops. And you will find that if you can get used to doing this kind of continuous line technique, as opposed to kind of choking down, really trying to be careful about what you're drawing. Sometimes your marks can be, a little bit easier, a little bit more graceful. They might not be exact, but even though this is exact, that kind of inheriting line, can sometimes interfere. You can even, give yourself some points along that, and then connect those points with some diagonals. And you don't have to be symmetrical here. And then maybe inside of that, maybe I'll start working with some of my, just kind of practice trace circles here. Trace it around, and then just see how that feels. Maybe I'll do some overlapping. Maybe I'll just use half of it and then have these curves up to create kind of a pattern. And if this were the center, I might start a spiral and make that spiral getting bigger. Okay. So when you feel like you have kind of warmed up, you have enough control, I'm hoping that we can start 2 mandalas in the 30 minutes that we have. If you are just going to do one, that's perfectly fine. Oh, and I kind of want to remind you again, here, let's take a look at this mandala book. A lot of the designs, in mandalas are just really very simple. Those looping things that we were doing, okay, just like a little egg shape. It's kind of a little line, okay, a spiral that might feed itself. So instead of thinking about making pictures, spirals, little leaves, etc., think about just making designs. So now let's go ahead and start. I'm going to have my larger template be the center of my mandala. And of course, you can have something larger or something smaller. I'm going to draw that. I'm going to take another one with a little bit and try my best to center it, but if it's not centered, it really doesn't matter. Oh, now I think I want to share the screen again and go back to the slideshow for just a second. Many of you have looked at have already posted mandalas. So there's a couple of really good ones, on our D2L page. Sharing the screen here. Not really paranoid. Here. So this is, I'm going to post this slideshow, and you can see this is just what we've been doing. So here, oops. I wanted to show you a couple of these. So here are just some real easy ways to work with these designs. You can also work with text. Here's a mandala that I made where I just listed all of the words starting with I that describe being. In fact, I solicited these on Facebook. I asked people to just tell me words that start with I that have to do with being. And so I just simply wrote these around, circle. Okay, this is a fabric mandala that I made, and here's one using this technique. I think I did this in a mandala class. Okay, This one is a very large painted mandala. It's not super large. It's like, 30 by 40, I think maybe. And here's a smaller one. All right. So just to give you some ideas, the mandalas that we looked at, the Buddhist and the Hindu mandalas are very highly controlled. But remember, we're doing this just as a meditation, as a way to relax. So you can go ahead and that. Now, you don't have to always have things being a circle. So I'm going to throw in this rectangular shape here. So what I'm doing is just kind of dividing the space, and think of it as your life or your mind, dividing the space into these kind of manageable segments. And let's go ahead and put you right in the center. So now I have a design. Now I can keep using template to complicate this design even more, or I could start to work with the various parts of the design, and subdivide them. So I'm going to see how this works. This little circle will pretty good fitting in my corners. But I'm going to continue the template work just a little bit. The smaller they are, the trickier they are to trace. Put this in my corners here. And very quickly, you can see that mine is not completely symmetrical, but if you want to make it completely symmetrical, go ahead and try to. One way that you can make it completely symmetrical, is to kind of find your center. And to find the center, you can simply fold it in half, or you can go ahead and measure the diameter, and then put a point in your center. So now once I've got this design, now I'm going to start to add a few other designs. I think I'm going to, in this circle, just make some kind of flower shapes, sort of half flower shapes. And again, if you're into symmetry, you can decide, okay, half and half, so there's 4 and then maybe 8. I'm actually working from the corners, moving into the corners, referring to the corners of my rectangle here. All of these corners. Maybe I will add some other marks. How about you can use, again, a template just to do some half circles if you'd like. Or you can freehand those half circles. I'm going to find just some music here. So you guys just keep working. So these can be as simple or as complicated as you like. And one thing I have noticed from my practice is that they're never the same. Even sometimes when I try to make them the same, it doesn't work. So that's very freeing in a way. Just like your meditations, or your runs, or your dances. It's very difficult to repeat things exactly. And at a certain point, you might decide you want to add some color. So I'm going to work with my colored pencils. But you can also work with markers or with paints. And of course, if anyone has any comments or questions, feel free to, go ahead and turn off your view, turn on your mic.
if you feel like you've done all you can, and you're satisfied, then try another one.
Ugh.
are pretty solid on the direction of this. To go ahead and use it for a second. Okay, and I do want to take a couple of moments to just kind of regard your mandala. Okay, take a look at it. I'm drawing for a moment and try to look at it without being critical of what you think it's supposed to look like. Just kind of notice it's done, and notice how, as a result of the circular diagram, you know, you do keep moving into a focus center and out, you know, and even though your individual layers, so to speak, of the mandala are divided into different sections, you know, you probably still have a sense of continuity through each of them. And so you are constantly moving in and moving out. You may spend some time on a more detailed area, just taking a look. So I'm going to suggest that we spend just a few moments using our mandala as our meditation. So if you need to stretch, go ahead and, you know, move your arms and legs a little bit, maybe do a couple of head circles. And just place your mandala someplace where you can see it easily. I suggest, as you're sitting, having it be about in line with your legs, so that you'll have a downward gaze. If this is uncomfortable, you know, for you, then feel free to kind of prop it up so that you can see it a little bit better, maybe leaning against the wall. But as you're looking at it, you don't want it necessarily to curve really down at it, but still having your eyes have a downward gaze, as we try to do in meditation. And just taking some moments to let your mind go as you are taking a look at that mandala. Focus on your breathing. If you have a mantra that you like to use, you can use the parts of the mandala as a sort of a rhythm. How many mantras do you say going around this circle and then into this one? And maybe you're going to stop here and repeat your mantra. Stop here and repeat the mantra. Stop here and repeat the mantra. Stop here and repeat the mantra. So allow yourself to use your own mandala as a meditative device. have a thought, notice it, and gently return your attention to your dissolve. Gently bring your attention to your breath. Notice the space around you. Notice the quiet space. I very much like to see the mandalas that you made. There's not too much to ask. Just turn on your camera and just hold your mandala up to the camera. Let's just set this so then we can see them. Hopefully you'll upload them and then I can see. I don't have a camera. Okay, Tim.
Yeah, I can solve it, but it's
Alright,
simple, so I don't know. I don't know if it's my
Yeah,
first
so
time
they're
I
just
can.
hold it right up to the camera, you
It's
know,
just
and
simple.
let's look at it. Oh, that's beautiful. That's very beautiful. Great.
Simple. Yeah,
And that
It's
will
not
be really
perfect.
wonderful to add some color to that.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
Thank you.
does anyone have any feedback on doing this?
Yeah, like
It looks great. I think it's really beautiful. So finish it, take a photograph of it, upload it to discussion.
okay, thank you.
Did you enjoy it? Did you think that it was frustrating or interesting or relaxing?
It's just enjoy. It's like it's fun. Yeah.
Good, good. Okay.
I like that combination of doing that with that music.
Oh, did you? I was wondering. I had a taste for that music because they're a North African band. They actually play in Chicago quite a bit, but I thought, is this a little too much movement for you guys? But then I thought, well, it's so rhythmic, you know. So yeah, thanks. Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. So I did type the name of the band in the chat for you, Tim.
Thanks.
Yeah, and you know, we've talked a little bit about music before. It's such a personal preference. Okay, some people will always want to have some kind of a rhythm, and that's perfectly fine. Some people want something that is just a little bit more drone, so that they don't have to feel that, you know, musical heartbeat, so to speak. Some people like Sundar likes to meditate to the waves, and that's great. So we are so very lucky now in this, 21st century because of the internet can give us access to all kinds of sounds. So great, thank you all so much. And I'm looking forward to seeing your mandalas. I do recommend this as a practice. I mean, I'm not going to say I do a mandala every day because of course I don't, but I do a lot of them, and I have been for a number of years. And I sometimes I will show them, because I am an exhibiting artist, but most of the time, they're just for me. They're meditation. It's a very private thing. They can be very relaxing. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
I have a question for about the mandala. I saw a lot of mandala in my life, when I went to temple, like in this temple in Nepal, there's a Bars, there's some they make in stone also, and they make in front of the house. But I don't know if there is any specific formula or principle to make this one, or I don't know about that.
Well, the mandalas that you saw in the temples are very specific, and they probably have very specific imagery that relates to the deities of the temple itself, okay, or some history. For our purposes, it's pretty carte blanche, just concentric shapes, because I'm teaching this as just a method to get yourself to be in that state of stillness. There also are, I forgot to mention, in the area of Chicago that's known as Little India, Devon and Western, and
I
on
saw
Devon.
there's a road also, they make mandala kind of mandala in Devon. I know.
Yeah, on the roads, right?
Yeah, it's California and Devon. I thought there's
yeah.
a one mandala in the
And also Levitt and Devon as well, so they're
yeah,
scattered.
right. Yeah. But yeah.
So that's kind of fun. And those are completely decorative. Those mandalas are not meaningful, so it can be completely decorative, it can be completely an exercise, or it can be very meaningful. I do have some artist friends who will create a mandala as a healing device, maybe thinking about an illness that they or one of their loved ones has. You can make a mandala, about world peace, or about hunger. And then in that mandala, you can include various images, like the artist that I showed in the slideshow that does it about wheat production. She's very concerned with hunger. And so the images are really very specific.
Okay. Yeah.
So, take what you need from it. All right, everyone. Thank you so very much. And I look forward to seeing your posts of your mandalas. And I look forward.
With the mandala.
Where will you post them? Let me share the screen and let you know. Okay. So we'll go to our page. Okay, so here there's a direct link to the discussion board. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and several people have already posted. Coda just posted one. Let's go ahead and take a look at what people have already posted. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's really more of a mandala than a labyrinth. Okay, and here is, whoops, Shell did one quite a while ago. Whoops. Where is it? Is that it? Oh, it's not coming up. Okay, but I think there's a couple.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is where you're gonna go. Isabel's. Oh, that's a beautiful one.
Oh, it's a really
Yeah. So yeah, take as much or as little time, as you have, and do them frequently. I used to do this with my kids, when the kids were really crazy in the winter. Here, we're gonna make some mandalas, So yeah.
Yeah, other things like in this temple, I saw that before they worship, like before they prayer, they make the rice. They make like small
Yeah.
pieces, and they make like mandalas, like on hands.
too.
small pieces they make mandala with their hands, kind of lot of. Yeah, I saw people worshiping with that, but I don't know anything of that, you know.
And you can, yeah, you
My
can
father
even,
did that, but I don't know what that.
oh, well, yes, you should find out because it has very specific meanings, you know,
Yeah.
just like in Haiti, you know, the voodoo culture will also make mandalas out of like cornmeal, you know, that sometimes are entreaties to the specific gods, you know. Sometimes it's just like just a general blessing, you know.
Yeah, I think, okay.
Yeah. So it's a very, very widespread practice. So
Okay.
race, you know, etc. Yeah, I'm gonna actually just share the screen one more time before we go. I know our time is up here. But I did not show you in the slideshow that I have taken this idea of mandalas and I, I made found object mandalas, you know. So this is a mandala that I had a bunch of people do at a humanities conference. There's eggshells in the center. There's photographs, there's corks, and then I recreated that at Mana Contemporary as part of a performance fest in 2017. At the center, I had eggshells again in bones, puzzle pieces, army men, you know, and I think that there's one more. Yeah, so here's the completed mandala. And then, and the outer perimeter are found gloves. You know, you always find gloves on the sidewalk, you know, so those are found gloves. And when the mandala was completed, I have a friend who played, a couple friends who played music, you know, and did some chanting. And then we destroyed them, you know, so the energy went into the universe. So you can just play with this idea. It's very evocative.
Okay. All right, Professor. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sundar.
You're welcome.
And thank you, Mandy and Tesha and Tim.
All right.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All right, have a
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Bye-bye.